I have a responsibility to take care of what's been given to us. And I think that's indicative of most people who run, who walk, who enjoy being in the area. Who wouldn't want to be here?
There was always something to do. Play football, basketball, baseball, swimming, and so many great things and so many great memories.
When I was growing up, my family, all his brothers, sisters, my cousins, friends down the street, we went to the rec center every day. That's how I grew up, and it formed me as a person.
It's home. I view it as home. I view it as a source to help others. When I grew up and I saw, the opportunity to help, it just seemed natural and felt natural to come back and give what I received from the park and the recreation center.
Everyone goes back and says, when I was in high school or when I was in college, I worked at the playground, I worked in the day camp. So I think that somehow it really is a thread that connects so many people in Philadelphia.
It's wonderful because I have been coming with my granddaughters since they were born, and this is where they play. I love flowers, and the park is full of flowers the whole year. So I come around and look at all the flowers, check them out.
As we walk, we often pass through Fittler, and it definitely relaxes us, keeps us calm. It's a beautiful park.
If you look around the park is so beautiful. And this is where I live, and this is where I work, and this is where all my little friends come from. And this is how important it is to me. All the people that I know are from here.
Philadelphia Parks and Recreation offers athletics, cultural and performing arts, visual arts, environmental education. So it's really a place of choice that brings people together.
We have programs for the little ones, starting with music, dancing, ceramic. For the senior citizen, we have a salsa program, merengue program. This place is heaven for a lot of our residents in the neighborhood.
I think it's the first home for some kids, a second home for kids who have more support. It's a place where they can eat. It's a place where they can vent. It's a place where they can cry. It's a place where they can have amazing joy because they're learning t-ball and they hit the ball finally.
Well, it's a heaven sent. When they're involved in structured sports, when they're involved in structured recreations, then they can put their problems to the side and view themselves in a different light.
They try different things, and maybe they find something that's for them. They get involved in the fire prevention play or a drama program. They say, you know what, I like that. And then from there, it just grows. And when they go to high school, they get involved and so on, and that will form the child.
Kids just need someone, that one cheerleader, even if it's someone outside of their home. They need somebody to tell them that you're amazing or you can do better. I'm so proud of you. I love you.
There's a sense of gratification when I see people make it, and that somehow I was a part of that. It truly is a blessing for me. You can't just be around concrete all the time, but now you have another vantage point, you have another perspective, and that's part of the growth. We help people to grow. That's part of what we do.
What a beautiful way to start a morning. Thanks for being here. Jim, stand up. My friend Jim McGorman. Andrew, I'm sorry, but he's the best filmmaker in Philadelphia. Jim directed that. Oh, thanks, Lars. Since Jim stood up, I'm going to ask you all to stand up now. It's rainy, it's nasty. I'm really glad you came out. And I would like you to get into the spirit of this talk. And please rise. And please cheer your heart out, won't you? Oh my God! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Oh my God! My people. Oh. Hashtag CMPHL. Thanks. I'll see you on Twitter. A couple of years ago, about 10, 12 years ago, we were on the beach. We were on a film shoot, and art director, a copywriter, and one of the account executives were strolling down the beach during a break. They came across a bottle, and the art director picked it up and unplugged it, uncorked it, and out came this genie. And the genie said, this actually happened. The genie says to the art director, listen, you get the first of 3 wishes. You're all going to get a wish. So whatever you want, you just ask me for it, and you got it. Well, the art director can't believe this. He says, well, you know, truth be told, I'd like to be in Tahiti. And I could spend my life painting like my hero Gauguin. And wouldn't you know it, poof, he's gone. Copywriter picks up the bottle, and the genie says, you get 1 wish, whatever you want. The copywriter says, holy shit, Tahiti. I'd like to be in Paris, spend my life in the cafes, writing great novels, like Hemingway. And poof, he's gone. The account executive gets the bottle. And the genie says, you get the last wish, whatever it is. The last wish is yours. He says, whatever I want? He says, I want them fucking assholes back here right now. So that was the world that I left, the cultures that I wanted to leave. And in 1992, I left the agency that had a culture like that to start something different. 10 years ago, I left that and to try something different and try and take all the stuff I stole from everybody else and the stuff that I had learned and try and put it to work for people with good hearts. And so today, I want to talk about this theme of beyond. And Lars, thank you very much, had said to me, well, why don't you just talk about beyond the agency life? And it's really about beyond logic for me. I left the logical world, which is really emotionally driven, to really just pursue the idea of helping folks create love. And so today we're going to talk about love and what that means in our careers and in our lives. And this is about 10 years I've been doing some of the work I want to share with you. And because I'm kind of solo, and I work with a select few folks who I'm really lucky enough to know, like Jim, not everybody gets to know what we're up to. So
you buy all that connecting to the road, and then you go straight like this in a row, and you buy the connection, remember, that goes into Delios? Mm-hmm. So what you're doing is connecting to Fernando and Tomás right now. So if we buy this and this, then we already have the connection to our part of that.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at a cable television national conference, and we're going to share some of that work that I showed, or some of the theories that I talked about at that conference, and then I want to retire it, and so after 20 years is enough. And this is the shirt I wore on that day that I had bought. So one of you can take this shirt home today, because love is the answer to all things, and sometimes it means giving you the shirt off my back. And I want someone to walk away with this shirt. Jason, I think it'll fit you. Okay? And if you're behind that column, get out. There are all these seats open. Although on Twitter today, I did see that many reports are suggesting that this is the largest crowd in Creative Mornings history, period. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, how I learned to be good at what I was doing. I learned from my mother She always told me how right I was. It took years for me to understand that she was being sarcastic. But it's a mantra that I've tried to stay true to, and we'll talk about that as this is the core foundation of my life. How did I get into advertising? I'm just going to be real quick about a little history, and then I'm going to jump into what we're doing today. I went to work at the Daily Intelligencer as a very young man. That's the daily newspaper in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. We referred to it as the Daily Mistake. It was a great paper full of typos. We loved it there. But I wanted to dig out a copy of the front page just so I had a visual on the slide. So I went to the newspaper archives and I found this Daily Intelligencer and I thought, oh, that's terrific. And then I looked at one of the headlines on there and I realized this is a headline from just before I went to work at the Intelligencer. And there was a strike at the local high school and a bunch of kids shut down the high school to protest the Vietnam War and to offer some other demands. And it turns out my name's in there because I was one of the organizers of the strike. And if you really look in there, you see that, you know, my mom was right, again, because one of the demands, says list of demands, said, we're going to present a list of demands to the school principal, and they will include keeping the gymnasium and auditorium open for students to use as they wish. Doesn't have to be gym, right? And that we're going to have an area where we can smoke, because smoking is our natural right, any 16-year-old. God damn it. And we got to have less hassling about skipping class. That's enough to shut down the school. So that was fun to review that, and I remembered, oh, that's why I got kicked out of school, and then why I got the job at the paper not long after that as a very young dropout. And I went to work in the ad service department, and my job was to run the proofs, the ad proofs, from the composing room out to the advertisers, like Hornberger's Bakery and the Wagon Wheel Restaurant and the Lawn Depot, where you can get topsoil. And I would run these ads out, and they would say things like, oh, this looks good. Oh, but make the logo bigger. My name's not big enough. So I learned then, like, really the key to advertising success, as you all know, make the logo bigger, is the mantra. So I was doing that. And then when they fired me, I realized I had a good relationship with some of these clients. And I thought, well, then I'm going to start my own ad agency because I know how to do ads. I'd make the logo big and put a 50% offer and with a coupon, and bingo, I got it. So I went to some of these clients and I said, I got fired, but I know how to make your ads the way you like them, so I'll do that for you for 15%. Because I read the David Ogilvy book, and that's how you got paid 15%. It seemed like a good deal. So I did that, and the next day, after getting fired, I went back into the paper, and they said, no, you can't be here. I said, I'm an ad agency now, and in fact, I got an ad for you for Friday's edition of the Dining Guide. And the Dining Guide, every Friday, all the restaurants in town would take one of these squares, and they'd put in their specials, you know, clam strips, $4.99, whatever the special of the weekend was. And so I had the Wagon Wheel Restaurant, and the Wagon Wheel's logo was, guess what, a big wagon wheel. So I gave them a circle ad, and they, the place freaked out. Like, all the other restaurants freaked out, like, what's that circle doing in all the squares? So I'm like, I knew my mom was right, you know, like, the whole world was wrong. And, you know, I had found the secret to advertising. So from that moment forward, I was going to be in the advertising business, and I would be a big success. And then I realized the other mantra is that the whole world is about 3 drinks behind. That's what I took away from my success. So anybody who needs to have a happy hour companion, we can continue this story, please give me a call. I got fired from my own agency when I went bankrupt, and then moved to the city here to get a job in a real agency, and I met my wife, who's here today, beautiful Lynn Tettemer, and she kept me on the straight and narrow and told me I was wrong, other than, you know, not unlike my mother, told me I was wrong when I needed to hear it, and allowed me to become a success and make a beautiful baby. Jessie, who's here, who's making her own beautiful baby soon, and she's got her own growing little concern in the PR and social media world, and she's hiring, so look her up after this. So I'm suddenly in the real world of the ad agencies, and I'm learning about some of the heroes, and Bill Birnbach was a real hero. And he's a guy who had brought emotional connections into the work. He produced the great VW Beetle campaign in the 60s, legendary. Great, great mentor. I read everything I could about him, and he would say things like, you can say whatever you want rationally about a product or a service or whatever you're doing, and all those rational arguments will wash over your audience. You've got to hit them in the gut, make them feel something. If you don't touch them in the gut, nothing happens. Man, I got excited about that. That was the world I wanted to live in, making emotional connections. But for years, I was not quite sure which emotions, and I would have that kind of discussion all the time with whatever creative director I was working with, and we'd try and really understand how could we make that emotional process a little more scientific, really understand it. So years later, I'm watching this series by PBS. It's called The Secret Life of the Brain, and it's based on a book by Dr. Richard Restak. Restak is a neuropsychologist. He's written a lot of great books. Look him up. He's terrific. He's a terrific read. And inside this video, and then in the companion book, Restak shows us like the Holy Grail for me. And suddenly it all came together. And this is a 1997 or something, and I put together this talk called The Emotional Guide, which is what I did 20 years ago. And I've been dining out on this thing ever since. You remember learning your colors in kindergarten? You learned with that color wheel. So Restak puts emotions on the same color wheel and assigns them in very particular places. Just like colors, if you look in the center here, you know, the colors are intense, like the emotions. Rage. That guy cut you off on the Schuylkill Expressway, and you are enraged, and you flip him off. And eventually, a mile later, you're just pissed off, and you grade out to annoyance, right? And it's a two-way street. You might start out annoyed, right? Like there's that little old lady on the passing lane with the blinker going, and she's 45 miles an hour, and you can hardly see the top of her head. And you're annoyed because you're stuck behind her, and you get a little pissed off after a mile, and eventually you cut her off. So it's a two-way street, these emotions. And just like emotions, just like colors, you blend emotions to get other ones. So like colors, like if you put red and yellow together, like what do you get, class? Thank you, kindergartners, yes. So we started looking at some of the things Birnbach and his ilk were saying, and we realized we wanted people to love the work we were doing. I mean, what good is doing advertising if people don't love it? How many times have you said, well, I hate these commercials, and then you stop the conversation because there's that one that comes on. I love this spot, and you have to watch it. Or there's that one post that you fell in love with, and you have to share it, right? That's not a logical action. And so we really started looking at this notion of love. And look at it up there in the corner. Love, the answer to all things. The love you take equal to the love you make. I wanted to know how to do that. And inside Restak's color wheels, we get the answer. There are key ingredients to these emotions that we want. The key ingredient to love, trust and joy. Think about it. You cannot possibly love someone unless you trust them implicitly, right, and find great joy in their presence. And when that son of a bitch cheats on you, it's over. You either dump him, or at least you know your trust, and therefore your heart is broken. You no longer find joy in their presence, right? You can't love your car unless you know it's going to start every morning, and it has, the Outlaw Country station from Sirius. So you can find joy as you flip people off on the road. Joy and trust create love. And look over here. How many people in the room are optimists? Well, it's a rainy day. You came out here. I'll tell you, since November 9th, there are a lot more pessimists in the audience every time I ask that question. How many people are pessimists? The moral arc of the universe is long, my friends, but it bends towards justice. Have faith. If you were an optimist, you woke up this morning with joy in your heart, anticipating today's talk and whatever else you got going today with joy in your heart. If you anticipated today's talk with anger in your heart, you are an aggressive, contemptuous son of a bitch, and we don't need you here. Am I right? Joy, optimism, love, trust. That's the emotional guide that I've been talking about for 20 years. So before you sit down to do any strategic thinking or creative thinking or pitching with new clients or talking amongst yourselves or trusting your own agency to do good work for you, start in this world. Think, how can we build trust with everything we do? How can we build brand equity based on trust and joy, and people will love us? And that's the easy part. The hard part is then maintaining it and not breaking trust. How'd you like to be United Airlines right now? Right? Fuck 'em. Right? So this color wheel was a magic little talisman for me, and I've carried it for 20 years. The other thing I learned, Simon Sinek has this, you've seen his TED Talk, I bet a lot of you, and he has this thing called the golden circle. Why he calls it the golden circle is beyond me, but Y is in the center, because that's where you want to hit. That's like the bullseye. And what do I mean by that? One of the first clients we had at Red Tettemer was a client that I took away from my old agency with me. It was Turner Broadcasting in Atlanta. And these are the days really just before the first Gulf War, and CNN was known as Chicken Noodle Network. Didn't have a lot of credibility yet. But Ted Turner, the visionary founder of Turner Broadcasting, was a madman, a visionary, a nutcase. He was not interested in making a 24-hour news network. His interest was in having a place on television where the world would see each other's perspectives. And he thought, if we're really good at it, we will end conflict around the world. That was his mission. He was a big UN guy, and he thought CNN could be like the United Nations. We will not be of Atlanta. We will not be of America. We will be of the earth. There's no such thing as foreigners in his vocabulary. So I really started to understand that the people I was really drawn to in my work were the people who understood why they did what they did. And the work they did wasn't really the point. The impact of the work is the point. The work they do and the work you do is really just your medium. It's like painting with oils, but what's the impact of the painting? That's what we wanted to try and find out. So I'm a sucker for why, and that's the question I'm going to ask everybody all the time. Why do you do this? No, but tell me, why do you do that? But why? Why? It's easy to talk about what you do. It's easy to talk about how you do it. It's really hard to talk about why you do it. And I bet there's a lot of people in this room who don't even know why they do some of the things they do. So then at the same time, I'm stealing from everybody. You dig? You got to steal from everybody. I'm hearing on the radio this series that was started 60 years ago in Philadelphia by Edward Murrow and sponsored by the Campbell Soup Company, called This I Believe. And This I Believe was probably on NPR for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Still, some essays are recorded and broadcast on the local public station. But Murrow said, we live in a time of unusual polarization. This is 1959, 1960. And oddly enough, prescient thinking, he said, not unlike Ted Turner, he said, I've got to create a series where people can hear each other's perspectives. And we'll get to know each other in this country again as humans, not as blue states or red states, which those terms hadn't been coined yet, but the feeling was there. So Murrow puts on This I Believe. I discover it, and there's also a handful of books that came from the essays. I urge you to check one out or go online and listen to some of these essays if you're not familiar. They're beautiful, and they're smaller than you might think. The best ones turn out to be kind of small in terms of, it's easy to say, I believe in world peace. But as I started using this in the work I've done the last 10 years, people tell me amazing things. And they bring them to our Octagonal Beach House, where Lynn and I host some charrettes throughout the year, where people share their This I Believe, and they share their passions with each other, And they learn that as an organization, there's some connective tissue that they didn't quite know about. And that there's a reason that they've been drawn like moths to the flame to that visionary leader or to that mission that they haven't yet declared. And this exercise helps get them there. So somebody wrote once, I believe in barbecue. And I wanted to know, tell me about that. What's that mean, I believe in barbecue? Well, barbecue is the moment every week where the family is together and we exhale and there's no pretense and our hair is let down and we laugh a lot and we're gathered around the barbecue every Sunday. And what it really meant was it had nothing to do with the meat on the grill, although there's nothing like that sausage grease coming down your chin. It's not about that. It was about the ritual of joy, of intentionally taking a moment to create joy, to create the possibility for joy and laughter. And my God, we need that, right? Who doesn't need that? Who's happy enough? So to take a moment of time, and then, so in this person's organization, they went back and they thought about that and they said, we have to have rituals in our organizational culture that allow for joyous moments to happen. You know, what a core value to like actually, everybody says, oh, we want to have a happy environment. But how many folks have a ritual of making that happen? Somebody else wrote, I believe in walking the dog. That's the moment of clarity for me in the day, when everything else kind of drips away and I'm just kind of following the dog's butt, you know, and I'm not thinking about much of anything. And then I start to engage. And as I watch the dog, I realize maybe I should be more aware of what things smell like and what things sound like and what stories am I missing that the dog is picking up. And isn't there a little moment when I can just relax, think about things, clear my head, and offer up a bit of a little prayer, is essentially what this person was talking about. That walking the dog was a moment of prayer. And again, that organization said to themselves, maybe we need to create intentional opportunities for people to clear out and offer up little meditations and be aware of their surroundings intentionally. There's a temporary staffing organization out of Newark, Delaware that we work with. They have 100 and some thousand temporary workers in their workforce all across the country. And they put people in reception jobs, in drill press jobs, in financial analyst jobs, and lots of people picking your Amazon purchases out of their warehouses and shipping them to you. Thousands of people on an ongoing basis. And they spent 15 years, these two guys, founders of the organization, big heart. But they spent 15 years sucking up to their clients like we're wont to do in our business. And kind of forgetting how to suck up to the workforce. And they were having some cultural problems inside the company, and they were missing their mission. So they went through this process, and one person in the organization wrote this: I believe in bigger boots. This was a woman named Heather Hollers. I don't think she'd mind me saying her name. And she looks like a Heather Hollers. Fantastic, big woman with a tremendous full-throated voice, and you would think that nothing could intimidate her. And in fact, she said, when I was a little girl, I was a wee little shy thing. And my father always had 2 or 3 jobs. He was a laborer, and he always had a collection of cracked leather boots at the back door. And I'd come home from school, and I'd get into those boots, and I'd tromp around the house and trip over myself. And one day, he came home and found me in his boots. I thought I'd get a licking. He was a tough guy, my old man. Instead, he puts me up on his lap, and he says, honey, you want to fill these big boots? You want to wear them? You better fill them. You better know how to fill bigger boots with every step you take in this hard life. And she reads this to her colleagues. There's not a dry eye in the house. She's shaking as she recalls this memory and talks about it. And she says, she looked up to the heavens. She said, Daddy, I sure hope I made you proud. And the 2 guys who had that company, they looked at each other and they said, holy shit, that's our whole mission, is to helping people go beyond their expectations and to fill bigger boots. And they turned the focus of the company away from the clients. Not really, they got sucked up to plenty. But they turned their focus to ensuring that the workforce could have successful, fulfilling, and engaging experiences in everything they did in their jobs. I could talk to you for about an hour about how they changed the way they work with their workforce. But they realized the workforce, 100,000 strong, was their most valuable asset, not the relationships and contracts they had with their clients. And it started with this realization about bigger boots. There's an organization, Sean's here, from Clarify. This is an organization for 50 years in Philadelphia. It was known as the Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Delaware Valley. You knew them as cccsdv.org. What a mouthful. But they really helped people get out from under crushing debt by showing them little victories that would turn into large triumphs of unexpected proportions. People who had $34,000 in credit card debt, or $162,000 in student loans, or were on the verge of losing their home. And they were on, as one of the clients said recently, we thought we were goners, and they show up at this place. And then they are filled with hope. Immediately, they have a plan. Well, when we changed the name, we went through this process, changed the name to this. And Patty Hassan, my friend and the CEO of the company, she had this name under a sheet, and she unveiled it to a room like this with all her employees, and she said, today we are a verb. She said, our name is a mandate for action. We know what we must do every day with ourselves and with our clients. It was really powerful. It sure is not the same as cccsdv.org. This is supposed to be really like cobalt blue, because someone at CultureWorks wrote, I believe in cobalt blue. So I stopped him right there. What are you talking about? It's cobalt blue. What a beautiful, powerful color on its own, but it's the best color as a backdrop that let other colors shine. And we looked it up on the period of elements, whatever that table is, you know, and cobalt is known as CO, and CultureWorks is a co-working space, and they co-pilot with arts groups and artists. And we realized, holy mackerel, like the notion of cobalt. Also, cobalt was defined as a mineral that will, or an element or mineral, I guess, that will help strengthen alloy, create stronger alloys, and magnetic properties. Like, so what arts organization doesn't want to be stronger and be magnetic, you know, right? So it was just perfect. The next day they were out in there painting the wall as you walk into CultureWorks, cobalt blue, and they realized they had a very interesting core value that would lead to this conversation about what they really do for a living. Finishing a project now with my friends at the Broad Street Ministry. Does anybody know Broad Street Ministry? What an amazing place. Serving the most vulnerable of our sisters and brothers in Philadelphia at the most basic level. You need new underwear. That's, you know, there's a place to do that. Basic needs are served. A meal a day is served. And I went there thinking their mission must be to transform this population. So like the before and after photos would be homeless on the street, Cherry Hill. You know, I thought that's what their mission was. Au contraire, what they do is transform the people who come to work there, the people who volunteer there, the missionary kids who show up for a week in the summertime and go back home bouncing on the car seat, literally, as somebody described it. Can't wait to get back there. And they practice what they call radical hospitality. And we had to define that because everybody had a different definition of radical hospitality. But as we went through this process to define it, we went through this I believe exercise. And the development director, who's a pretty tough woman, like you think she's got to go get the money, and she's pretty tough at what she does, pretty good at what she does. And she sits down and writes this essay and shares it with her colleagues. And she tells the story, another father story. Her uncle is dying, and he's had cancer, and he's in the 4th stage, and it's a long, drawn out, it's the death we all fear. And her father helps his brother through this ordeal, takes him to all the appointments, takes him wherever he needs to go, takes him to see friends for the last time. And in the colder days, he's got this big old coat, big, heavy top coat. It's so heavy, his brother can't even wear it very often. He's just too fragile. So his brother carries the coat for him. And when he passes, after a couple of months, he calls his daughter up and he says, I've got all this stuff from my brother, and I'd like to bring it in and donate it to Broad Street Ministry. because other people can really use this stuff. But one thing he didn't donate, and that he left in his car for months and months after that, was his old coat. And he said, I carried that damn coat for years. I can't give it up. And finally, he came in to Broad Street and asked to see his daughter, and he had that damn coat. And he offered it up. He says, somebody is going to need that coat this winter. But he couldn't get rid of it because he loved his brother, of course. But what he really fell in love with was the burden of his brother. And he loved carrying the burdens of his brother as much as he loved his brother, if not more so. It was the last thing he could give up, was his brother's burdens. He could mourn his brother, he could grieve and set that aside, but he couldn't give up the burdens that he carried for his brother. And we realized at Broad Street Ministry, everybody who works there is a nutcase like that. They got to be carrying somebody else's burdens. And they love them. They love the burdens as much as they love the people they serve. And carry the damn coat is becoming culturally a big part of the culture there at Broad Street. And so when you say, I'm having a tough day, somebody can say, I'll help you carry that damn coat. It's become part of the cultural jargon of the brand that is uniquely Broad Street. That's a heavy one, so this is a little easier. Friends of mine, friends of our family, has an apartment complex. They asked me to come in and do some focus groups. This is down in Oxford, Pennsylvania, down in Maryland, near the Maryland border. And it's basic garden apartments, 12 buildings, surrounded by parking lots, 8 units per building. You know the drill. Built 50 years ago. Tired old brick buildings. And she said, as a young woman who kind of inherited the business, and she said, I need to understand what these residents need and what they prioritize. And we have a lot of maintenance work we know we have to do, but she really wanted to know what it was like to be a resident there. So we convened 3 focus groups with 3 different groups from the residents, from the people who rent there. Some of them have been there 4 months, some of them have been there 25 years. And for 25 years, some of them said they haven't changed my carpet once. Like I thought we're going to have the gripe session, right? First thing I asked them to do was close your eyes. All right, I'm giving you unlimited resources and 6 months to take a vacation. Where do you go? Write it down. Some people scribbling things down. I said, okay, now that you've been on vacation for 6 months, you've got the key in your hand, you're walking into your apartment. How do you feel coming home? And I'm thinking people are I got to come back to this 25-year-old carpet. Everybody was, my own bed. They were thrilled. I could turn my music on, not too loud because the neighbors upstairs, I know they don't like it. And I'm thrilled to be back with Mrs. Perkins on my right side because I know she needs my soup every time she's feeling ill. And the people started talking about what they really loved about living in this place, not an apartment complex, but an apartment neighborhood. And they said, we really want to be neighbors. It was not like, I don't need to be friends with my neighbor. I want to be a neighbor. They need jumper cables, I'm there. They got a problem with the hot water heater, I'll help them. Don't call management, I'll help you. And that permeated through the place. And the takeaway was, well, we got to do more things to serendipitously let people bump into each other and get to know each other and become neighbors. And one woman said to me, I moved in here about 6 months ago. I went through a divorce. Suddenly I was impoverished. I'm at the lowest part of my life. And I got to move into this apartment complex, which I've seen as a little girl was the place where I thought this is like the low rent place. And I'm going to end up here? She said, I got to tell you something. I expected cockroaches. Instead, I got awesome neighbors. There's the t-shirt. That's the t-shirt for the place. Isn't that a brand promise? All they have to do now is they started talking about how do we make a neighborhood out of this place. Very different take. And then there's the Parks and Recs with the video you saw. When Mike Berenides came to me a few years ago and said, we've just mashed Parks and Rec together. Philadelphia, the first city to have a zoo and a hospital and blah, 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 libraries, was the last city to get a Parks and Rec department. We had these 2 things that didn't understand each other. They were suspicious of one another. You're getting all the money. No, you're getting all the money. We serve the parks. We serve the recs. You know, they didn't understand the same ideal. You saw that film. Who was a park employee? Who was a rec employee? Who was a volunteer? Who was a citizen enjoying it? You couldn't tell. They were all serving the same ideal. And in fact, it was Crawford Clark, the last guy you saw and the first guy you saw in that film, who talked about you need an alternative to the concrete. And he was a parks maintenance guy, but he talked about very human needs. And he understood that the reason they are all there together was to help someone fall in love with something and find their path to what they might consider a success in their life. And they were serving suddenly the same ideal. And we showed that film the first time, and people stood and cheered. They couldn't believe it. That's me. They all saw themselves in that film. So that brings us back to my favorite brand promise, and this, I believe, which had nothing to do with help writing. 250 some years ago, the city seal was created for the city of Philadelphia, and inside this city seal, there are 4 key core values that are depicted, and they are hope, peace, justice, and prosperity. Hope, peace, justice, and prosperity, the core values of our city. And if we live by those core values, we will create Philadelphia Manetto, a city where brotherly love can flourish. There is no other city in the world with a brand promise that is about having each other's backs and working for peace, prosperity, justice, creating a hopeful city, a city where we love each other. Because love is the answer to all things, is it not? It's the only city. We don't work from this brand promise often enough. We forget it. It's a cliche. You can't say brotherly love without saying sisterly affection. You know, I get that. I get it. I get it. It's Bill O'Reilly's world. We just live in it, you know. But let's remember, when you walk out of here, hope, peace, justice, prosperity, work for those values. Create a city where we have each other's backs. That's my favorite brand promise on earth. No wonder Robert Indiana chose our city for his statue that people flock to and take pictures of, right? So, reminder, kids, when next time you're working in your coloring book, think of emotions. Think about how to blend, trust, how to create joy, earn trust, create a situation where people are looking forward to engaging with you, looking forward to your arrival, like your dog at home who knows you're coming, shaking at the door. You can't see it, but he knows you're coming. He is an optimist, that dog, right? And live for this moment to create love in everything you do. Finally, is there anybody who doesn't know who this dude is? Speaking of mentors, I want to show, indulge me please, 3 more minutes of video from season 1 of Mad Men. This is Don Draper, of course, the world's greatest creative director. And Don, backstory, Don's life is in the toilet. He's a drunk. He is, like the whole world is 5 drinks behind Don Draper, right? His life is in the stinker. His wife has tossed him out. He doesn't know if he'll ever see his children again, and he is realizing, I have fucked up a very good thing. Woe is me. Well, in the middle of all that, the Eastman Kodak company comes along and says, we've got a new slide projector we call the Wheel, and we're going to pitch it, we want you to pitch us, and we're going to go around New York today and see a bunch of agencies and get their pitch on it. And so Don has to deliver Sterling Cooper's pitch to the Eastman Kodak company. So I leave you with this question. Are you a wheel or are you a carousel? What do you stand for? What is it that you do? Get past that. Go beyond what you do. Understand why you do it. And you will make the world a little happier place. I know I'm all that's standing between you and your morning cocktail, so we will finish up. And I will say thank you for, I will say thank you for indulging me today. And I will answer any questions, and I will take the best question and give you the shirt off my back. Thank you. Cheers.
You buy all that connecting to the road, and then you go straight like this in a row, and you buy the connection, remember, that goes into Delios? Mm-hmm. So what you're doing is connecting to Fernando and Tomasis right now. So if we buy this and this, then we already have the connection to our part, the